How to be free of others' judgment, guilt tripping, and all of that. That is the question today that was brought up. First of all, self judgment is something that we all experience from time to time. Um, we look into our minds and we say, why did I just do that? I just blew past that red light accidentally. I drove through a stop sign. I cut somebody off by mistake. These are all driving things, but we do this all the time. Why did I make that mistake on that report? Why did I fail to realize what my significant other was telling me? Why did I fail to see the signs of a bad relationship or a mistaken point of view that I had held for so long? All of these types of retrospective guilt moments, all of them are things that we experience over the course of our lives, and actually quite often. And it really comes down to looking at our past moments, our past activities, and feeling like something has gone wrong. So first of all, we do it to ourselves. And as we move through our lives, we build castles or artillery pointed direct back at our faces, or whatever kind of metaphor we want to say. But we build heaps of BS, if you will, based on these types of thoughts. So it starts with one thought, oh, I did that wrong, whoops, but then it goes into, why do I always do that? Maybe we have somebody at home that says something about us. Oh, you're always like that, for example. Why are you always doing that? Why are you always so clumsy? Why are you always so mistaken in this point of view? Why are you always leaving the dishes out and not getting to them? Right? Endless. And for each of us, we have our own lists of things, some of them more intense than others. Also, we have those in our lives that harp on various things. Maybe we don't call our parents often enough. Maybe we don't look after our finances well enough. Maybe we don't have the best job and our people in our lives, our relationships, make us feel that, so we feel judged. But also, we have and carry that judgment all the time when we look at, usually, before bed or first thing in the morning or right after we've made a mistake. We look very clearly at that and feel wrong, feel bad, and then foster a greater. Basically, we add like a layer of BS to this giant heap of BS that we've been building of I'm not good enough, right? I am unworthy. I am flawed. And so we do that over the course of our lives. And each of us has their own private little doo-doo bucket that we carry with us of all of these thoughts. And then we also relate these to maybe these judgmental figures in our lives, people that might give us advice, unwarranted advice, or say something to us about who we are, what we're doing, that makes us feel like we don't belong. It makes us feel like they want us to change. And so we feel guilt. We feel self-doubt. We don't have as much confidence. And we let that get to us over time. And then we start to subtly say it to ourselves. So today, what I'm going to do is really focus on one practice for this. And this practice is actually a pretty advanced practice, but I think you all are ready for it because we actually live in this day and age where people are more aware of the illusory, dreamlike nature of things. So I think we can go there. So let's just put our wisdom hearts on, our wisdom hats on, and really pay attention to this, because it is actually something that is a difficult subject. So we need to aspire that we can hear this. This life is like a dream. It's transient, it's moving, it's happening within our own minds. Nothing in our lives are happening not within our minds to us. It's all within our consciousness, and it's all moving. When we realize that, it's no different than like we just woke up in a dream. And there's so much surreal, postmodern art, movies that explore this, The Matrix, right? It's a simulation, others will say. That's maybe objectifying things a little too far. We can't really say it's a simulation. We can't really say it's exactly like a dream, right? It has stability. I wake up, I see this face every day, right? But it is dreamlike. It is transient, and it's all happening within my mind. For you too. It's all transient. It's all happening within your mind. When you realize that, you can use the potent wisdom of that truth to erode your own suffering. It provides actually an opportunity, I would say an invitation, for you to really become liberated from these negative emotional patterns that feel so very real, right? It makes everything feel so real. My self-judgment. I really did cut that person off. I really did make a mistake. And that mistake's going to stay with me. But it doesn't stay with you. So first of all, we can acknowledge that. These mistakes don't stay with us. I mean, sure, yeah, maybe our boss, if we made a mistake on the report, will mention it for like 3 weeks. Eventually, he won't mention it, or she won't mention it anymore. They won't mention it at all. Because it'll pass, right? We'll fix it. We'll do other stuff. Similarly, other judgmental figures in our lives. It'll pass. There's a passing nature to things. That's part one. We can acknowledge that and say, oh yeah, this will pass. I can have patience. Maybe I need to create more causes in my life, of not this thing I feel guilty about. For example, if I'm prone to tripping, right? Maybe I can go take a balance class, right? And then I can gain strength training. Maybe I can have a personal trainer, go to the gym, or just work on, my lower body. And then I'm not going to be prone to dragging my feet. I won't trip as much. So we can see that part of this is karmic from a Buddhist perspective. We can create causes and get different effects. We're experiencing the fact that we haven't been trained in some way. So we can train ourselves in new ways. We always have that ability to aspire for something different and then learn. So we don't have to ever live in this, I'm just not very good past. Even if someone tells us that we're just this certain way, we can always change. And that is a piece of wisdom that we can see based on the impermanent, transient nature of reality, right? We can learn something new. We can get ourselves back into shape, right? We always have the opportunity for that to some degree as as we age. That's part one, but we can kind of sense even with part one, oh, well, that person in our lives might still say that mean thing to us. Even if, for example, someone in our lives has always called us chubby or, a negative word. Maybe what could happen is, I work out a lot and I become really ripped and all that kind of stuff. And then what happens after that? Well, that person may let up, Or that person might just be like, you're always chubby, Chris, to me, right? You just maybe gotten the skinny body, but come on, you need to eat up. You got to put your weight back on, right? That's what happens sometimes. So it doesn't necessarily solve this recrimination, this judgment from others. It might help us with our identities. It might help us gain confidence. So it's a start, right? Seeing everything is impermanent, being patient, building new habits. But the second part is the part that's a bit, and I would say a lot more advanced. It's using this dreamlike nature as the basis for realizing that everything happens within your mind, your consciousness. Everything happens there. There's nothing that's separate from that. You can't find anything, any experience, any piece of knowledge that you've ever gained that happened within somewhere else. Somewhere else. When you start to recognize that everything you know, ever experienced, ever will know, has always had a layer, a foundation, has always been founded on a foundation of your consciousness. When we recognize that, it's all just the consciousness. It's just mind dreaming mind. Well, mind dreaming mind is very fluid. Not at all stable anymore. How we interact with the world around us gives rise to new experiences. How we cleanse our emotional landscape is something that is directly related to our own minds, but also directly related to how we view the external world, which is also just our own minds, just appearing in our own minds. When we start to dig into this, what we can do is start to view things differently. We have the power, because it is all happening in our own consciousness. We can choose to become absolutely enslaved by our viewpoints, by the world around us, or we can choose to become absolutely liberated from it. It's a choice. It's something that we have in relationship with the dreaming itself. We can dream itself differently. So when we have people that approach us and judge us, we can remember this dreaming itself nature. And as we do that, we can recognize that that individual is a projection of us and that we are a projection of them. It's interrelated, interdependent. When we recognize that, then we recognize that what they are doing with their judgment is picking on something that they view as a flaw in themselves or a fear in themselves. Also, we can see that they are a projection of our own fears, too. So when they say, oh, I don't like that you're chubby, that either hurts us or doesn't. If it does, it makes us feel guilty. Well, the guilty part is the fact that we have not accepted or let go of the fact that we are this way. We have not accepted and let go of whatever negative, judgmental thing they are pointing to. We are thinking it's negative. We think it's not good enough. So we have tremendous guilt about it. Yet if we say, this is a projection, this person's a projection, I'm a projection of them, they're a projection of me, we can then see, I can let go. It's easy to let go, right? It's easy to say, Why am I still harboring this view? First, on ourselves. Why am I still harboring this very rigid view of what healthy and unhealthy are? And why am I allowing anybody, including myself, actually, especially at the beginning, myself, to have that view and to be influenced by societal views, other people's views? Why am I doing this to myself to harm myself, right? Why am I harming myself by my view of what's wrong with me? In the end, when someone is judging us, that's actually what we are doing. We take that judgment and we internalize it and then accept it as if it is our own. We're not really rejecting it and saying, "No, it means nothing to me, sticks and stones, yada yada." We're not doing that actually inside. We are vulnerable to it because we are doubting ourselves. We doubt ourselves and we believe maybe what they're saying, which means, as we're saying, they're a projection of our own doubts, a projection of our own self-judgment. They're appearing to test that, to see, are you really done with this? Or are we going to continue to allow this to occur? So first, we can cleanse this in ourselves by recognizing that. By saying, "Oh, I can let go of this. This is just a lesson. I'm actually seeing by this person judging me that this is my judgment of myself because I'm hurt by it." Well, no more. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on viewing things differently. I'm going to work on owning whatever they're judging me for and owning that. That is not a flaw. It is actually the appearance of the mind, which is perfect, pristine. So that's the first part. The second part is after we've done that, we can also view this other person as somebody who's going through their own journey of this. Their judgmental ways, whatever that is also just their own minds. But we've cleansed it on our side, in our minds. So in relationship to us and them being mirrors of each other in this relationship, we can now see, oh, they feel like, in this case, being chubby is bad and wrong. And they feel that intrinsically about their own body image. There's something there for them. Now, all of a sudden, it's not about me and them judging me and my guilt and self-doubt and all that, bucket of BS that I am carrying around. Now I can see, oh, they're carrying their own bucket. They're carrying their own mountain of BS, of self-hate, of self-doubt, of fear. Now it's becoming clear. Now I can help them recognize that that's not needed. Now I don't have to judge them for being judgmental. There's no judging of the judger either. Of course they have to be judgmental. I'm being judgmental of myself for my way. They're going through the same thing. They've had people be judgmental of them. But they haven't recognized that this is a dream making a dream. A mind dreaming a mind. They haven't realized that. So because of that, they continue to wander in this situation of self-judgment, self-recrimination, judging others, judging circumstances, being happy, being sad by their rigid judgmental system. But when we realize, oh no, this is just the mind dreaming the mind, then they are invited too to this party of mind dreaming mind where they don't have to judge anymore. Where you don't have to judge anymore. Where I don't have to judge anymore. And in that way, this cleanses guilt, cleanses self-doubt, removes this pain. And why this is so powerful, there's some that might say, oh, this is a little dangerous. What if you start doing this and these people have done really bad stuff? What if I'm somebody who's done really something bad? Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, turn ourselves in for something that's really wrong. We should. We should take accountability. But we're not going to take accountability until we confront this judgment. Most of the time, we're not confronting it. We're burying it. We're throwing more doo-doo in the doo-doo bucket that we're just carrying around on our backs. We're not actually working through any of this. So, if this is something that's really problematic, illegal, or whatever, that we have done, that we have guilt about, that others are obviously very judgmental, the world is judgmental towards us about. How do we solve that? The same way. First, we see that, hey, look, it's past. I can't go back and change it. Made a big mistake. But I don't have to do it again. I can change my habits. Also, this is happening within my mind. This is happening within the mind of everyone else as well. To cleanse the mind of everyone and to cleanse the mind of myself, I must let go of this. The only way to let go of this, if it's something serious, is to confess. Build the relationships back again. To do one's time. To actually change. Do the penance. That's the only method, really. But it all begins, the root that gives rise to the mind that actually will confess, that actually will build the bridges again, that actually will be healed from this mistake, from these mistakes, from this judgment, from all of that, is this mind that recognizing that this is a choice. That we have a choice because it's our mind, it's our dream. We get to dream it differently. We have a choice of whether or not we're going to, and whether or not we're going to help others also recognize that they can dream it differently too. Once we realize that, we can become decent, amazing people, and also recognize it in our own minds too, rather than harboring self-doubt, judgment of ourselves, judgment of others, as well as carrying around a big pile behind us. So I hope something in these words has helped you with self-doubt, with feelings of guilt, feelings of being overwhelmed by others' judgment, or guilt trips, or whatever, right? All of that. That we do feel. We have this in our lives. We've experienced this at various times. We have people in our lives that are challenging. But this method can really transform our view and also immediately bring space where there was tension, bring lightness when there was heaviness. So I hope that finds you as well. Much love. Until next time.